So you're thinking about moving to Redondo Beach and you've got some money and want to buy a house. If so, you are in the right place because today we're going to talk about the top things you need to know before you buy a house in Redondo Beach. And don't worry, I'm not going to talk about the typical stuff like hire a realtor, get a pre-approval, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to get into some real insider's information about living in Redondo Beach and things that can save you tens of thousands of dollars and protect your risk factors when you're ready to buy a home here. So definitely stay tuned. Redondo Beach is an amazing place to live, but it is also a whole different vibe than other parts of Los Angeles or even the South Bay, and it's got some really unique selling points that I want to share with you. But before we dive in to what you need to know before buying a house in Redondo Beach, I want to welcome you to South Bay Living YouTube channel, the go-to real estate channel for everything you need to know about living in the beautiful beach cities of Los Angeles. I'm Shira Adatto, your local realtor, and I help you transition from one home to the next seamlessly and for the best price, whether you're buying or selling. So definitely hit that red subscribe button below if you want to stay in the know, and feel free to give this video a like if you found the information helpful. So let's dive into the top things to know when you're ready to buy a house in Redondo Beach. But first, where even is Redondo Beach? Well, Redondo is a coastal suburb in the greater Los Angeles area. It's where the salty sea air meets sun and sand and community and fun. The beach lifestyle makes the relatively short commute to downtown LA worth it. It's one of the 3 coastal cities in the Santa Monica Bay, and it's just 6.8 miles from the Los Angeles airport and 18 miles to downtown LA. Now, back in 1877, Redondo Beach was named the Gem of the Continent by the Los Angeles Daily Herald. It has a population of just under 68,000. So first important thing to know, Redondo Unified is its own school district and does not fall under the umbrella of Los Angeles Unified School District. This is a huge selling point for many people moving to the area because the public schools are all so highly rated with distinguished awards. Now, there are 8 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, and 1 high school that serves all residents. However, residents do not get to attend just any elementary school they want. It's based on which neighborhood you live in. So it's very important to do your research about the schools if that's important to you, so you can choose which neighborhood you want to live in based on the schools. For example, most residents of Golden Hills will attend Jefferson Elementary, but there are some pockets of Golden Hills that will go to Washington or Bernie, and this is something you need to know. So if you go to rbusd.org, you can see a map of the school boundaries. Now, regardless of where you live, all students will attend Redondo Union because it's the only high school, and the good news is it's repeatedly ranked as a top high school in the state. It's actually the 2nd largest high school campus in all of California, with an overall area of 56 acres and has a little over 3,000 students. For school ratings and scores, you can go to greatschools.org. You're always encouraged to do your own research on schools because opinions can be very subjective and are based on personal experience. Next up on things to know before buying a house in Redondo, there are 2 main areas in Redondo, each with their own zip code. North Redondo is 90278 and South Redondo 90277. The dividing line is found at 190th Street, which is also called Anita, as it gets further west. South Redondo is coast adjacent with about 1.5 miles of beachfront property. Its neighbors are Torrance to the east and Palos Verdes Peninsula to the south. North Redondo, on the other hand, has no beachfront property, but it has Manhattan Beach and Hermosa directly to its west and just a 5-minute drive to those beaches. North Redondo has convenient access to the 405 freeway. In South Redondo, you're going to have to drive a little bit longer to access the freeway. Now, for that reason, many commuters end up taking Pacific Coast Highway, which is also known as the 1, to get north, but that does have a lot of traffic lights and can take longer during busy commute time. If I had to summarize the main difference between the 2, I'd say South Redondo is a more coastal location with more of a beach town vibe and great walkability because it's close to Riviera Village, which is essentially Redondo's little downtown area with quaint shops and cafes and restaurants, while North Redondo is a little more densely populated, featuring some engineering and aerospace firms in the area, so it has a little bit more of an industrial vibe. So in short, if you want your home to be within walking distance of the beach or have ocean views, you're going to want to be looking at South Redondo. Just be prepared for a longer commute to the freeway if you have to get there for work. Now, once you settle in on North or South, you also need to understand the different pockets in the areas. In North Redondo, for example, living east of Vail has some drawbacks, while in South, whether or not you are north of Torrance Boulevard or south of Torrance Boulevard can also really matter. So bottom line, make sure you're working with a local realtor who really understands the nuances of the different micro areas. And for a full breakdown of the difference between North Redondo and South Redondo, I did a whole video on that, which you can check out in the little link in the card above. Moving on to weather, the climate here is so enjoyable that until recently, most of the homes weren't even built with air conditioning. We run about 10 degrees cooler than LA, so the summers are rarely too hot. Cool ocean breezes keep it really pleasant and balmy. It feels like it's always comfortable, and in the 70s, we're so spoiled. But in the past few years with climate change, we are now getting some hotter weeks that can hit the 80s and 90s, and during those heat waves, you will wish you had air conditioning. But like I said, many of the homes around here do not have AC, so it's definitely something you want to check out as you're looking at homes. Now, as your realtor, I can help you determine if AC can be added to a home you like, and we can get you quotes to get it installed if that's important to you. Now, let's get into some things to know about actual housing here in Redondo. There's a diverse range of properties in Redondo, ranging from single families to townhomes and condominiums. And then there is a style of a home sort of unique to this area, known as the 2 on a lot or 3 on a lot. These are not typical duplexes. When developing Redondo Beach, the city granted zoning variances that allowed bigger lots to be broken up and shared by multiple homeowners to increase housing density. This is what gave way to that 2 on a lot and 3 on a lot style homes that are prominent all throughout Redondo, but more so in North Redondo. And while these homes can feel large and completely detached and even have a yard, they can very much feel like a single family home, but by definition, they are legally considered a condominium because they are on a shared lot. So it's important to speak to your lender to make sure this type of housing is approved for your type of loan. And also important to note, being a condominium means you may have an HOA, a homeowners association, to establish covenants and restrictions and any shared costs between the two homes, like maintenance of the shared driveway and exterior areas, or shared costs around gardening, pest control. Now, because we're talking about sometimes only 2 or 3 homeowners in the association, some owners will decide to make the HOA inactive and let each owner decide and pay for his or her own property. But it's always important to know if there are any HOA fees or restrictions before making your purchase decision, especially if you're the type of person that wants complete privacy and autonomy and don't want to deal with neighbors that close. You'll probably want to look for a true single-family home. In addition to your monthly mortgage and any HOA costs, property taxes in Redondo fall around 1.1% of the purchase price, and homes do get reassessed when they transfer ownership or when they undergo a remodel when permits are pulled, etc. So you could be subject to a reassessment at that time. Okay, so you've done your research, you've gotten pre-approved, you have your down payment and closing costs ready to go, and you're ready to write an offer. What do you need to know? Side note, when I represent you as a buyer, I will sit down with you for a full buyer's consultation, going over in detail everything you need to know about the buying process and how to protect yourself. And I offer this at no charge to you. But today I'm going to go over some of the highlights so you can feel armed with knowledge when you're going through this process. So first off, the offer. You found the one, and now what? Well, the first thing is your realtor should provide you with a comparative market analysis, looking at what's currently on the market and all the recently closed comparable sales so you can determine a good purchase price. As your realtor, I will provide you with the data and I can advise you on strategy, but the ultimate decision is yours as a buyer. So I will go to bat for you and negotiate on your behalf to get you the best price. Now, within your purchase offer, it is customary in this area and therefore expected by the sellers for there to be an earnest money deposit of 3% of the offer price. Earnest money is a good faith deposit showing you have some skin in the game and that you are a serious buyer. If your offer is accepted, that money needs to be wire transferred into escrow within 3 days of opening escrow. So you need to be prepared and have that sum liquid when you're ready to buy. The deposit then gets held in escrow and is protected by contingencies we write into the offer, like inspections, appraisal, or your finance contingency. So if anything goes wrong within your contingency periods and you decide to back out of the deal, your deposit should be returned to you. Now, after your contingencies are removed, however, if the deal falls through, the seller is entitled to keep that deposit, so it's important to work with your realtor to make sure you are comfortable with the contingency timeframes. If the deal does move forward, the earnest money deposit is eventually applied towards the down payment, so it's not additional funds that need to be budgeted for. Other out-of-pocket costs that you need to budget besides your down payment and closing costs are the inspections. Depending on the home, there are several inspections we advise to do, including, of course, your general inspection, the sewer line. Termites are an issue around here we want to look for. And depending on what the general inspector finds, we may need to do further inspections, sometimes the roof or the foundation, the electrical systems, and these are all things you need to know before making your final decision. And so these would be out-of-pocket expenses to you as the buyer. Now, additionally, if you are getting a loan, your mortgage lender will require you to pay for the appraisal. Something unique to Redondo Beach is a city transfer tax. When the home transfers ownership, it is customary for the buyer to offer to split the city transfer tax 50-50 with the seller. You'll almost always see that in the listing description, and local realtors know to write it into the offer. But if you're working with an out-of-area realtor and you don't, expect to get a counteroffer asking for the city transfer tax to be split 50-50, and that will show up as a line item on your closing costs. Now, last but not least, Redondo is not an area that has the higher fire risk that other Los Angeles areas can have, but like everywhere in California, we are subject to earthquakes. So you're going to want to talk to a good insurance agent who can get you quotes for earthquake insurance if that's important to you. And that's on top of the homeowner's insurance, and it can be costly and have extremely high deductibles. So definitely something to consider your options for. Some people decide not to get it at all. So much to know, right? Well, don't worry. Buying a home here doesn't have to feel so scary. My name is Shira Adatto, and as your local realtor, my job is to handhold you through this entire process so it doesn't have to feel overwhelming. So if I can help in any way, it would absolutely be my honor.